Coming up on We Talk News this week, a group of former DEA chiefs and Republican DAs want a hearing on the movement to Schedule 3 for cannabis as the prohibitionists gear up for a fight. It's time to make your voice heard. And Maryland Governor Wes Moore makes a huge statement with a mass pardon for low-level cannabis offenders in their legal state. And North Carolina Senate takes the first step towards decriminalization by passing legislation for a medical program, but will still face stiff opposition in that state's House. Pennsylvania finally restarts its adult use reform effort in their legislature. Is the timing right now? And two signs the world is moving towards acceptance and normalization. The German police are pleading with passionate English soccer fans, aka the hooligans, to use cannabis instead of alcohol during the European Soccer Championships. And have you ever been to a Portland Pickles baseball game in Oregon? That independent league team is the first to sell legal THC infused beverages at a game. The times, they are a-changing. All that and coast-to-coast cannabis reports on We Talk News with Alaina Pinto. Next.
Music Studio.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of We Talk News, the weekly cannabis roundup produced by Pro Cannabis Media. I'm Alaina Pinto. There's an opportunity to add your voice and words to the ongoing cannabis reform effort in Washington, D.C. The DEA is soliciting to the public to offer their cannabis stories while the decision process continues to move cannabis to Schedule 3 on the Controlled Substances Act. There have been 20,000 comments so far recorded, with a report that 97% were positive or pro-cannabis opinions. The public comment period ends on July 22nd, and we want to encourage all of our subscribers, followers, and viewers to take advantage of this process. As the movement towards federal reform continues, former DEA chiefs and former Republican state district attorneys want their very own special hearing with the administration to counter the reform movement. This would be a private hearing, perhaps to counter the overall support by 70% of Americans who want to see the plant medicine legalized. There's no word if their request has been granted, nor even whether they should have this opportunity. As former government representatives, they are now members of the public and can use the same platform that all other citizens have access to. We will have the link and the QR code that's tied directly to that comment forum on the screen in this program. The state that is closest to Washington, D.C. is Maryland, where that adult use market continues to grow. Last week, our Washington, D.C. reporter Andrew Behringer was one of the first to report on the mass pardon handed down by Maryland Governor Wes Moore. Like many adult use legal states, governors are being urged by President Biden to do exactly what Maryland and Massachusetts governors have already done: pardon hundreds of thousands of low-level, nonviolent cannabis convictions. This one in Maryland did something no other state has done, which is to include people who have been arrested for paraphernalia. You know, the bongs, pipes, and other accessories that are used to consume the plant medicine. Well, here's some comments from people directly involved in this reform step, including Jason Ortiz from the Last Prisoner Project.
This is the biggest day in cannabis justice history, and it means that the entire nation is watching what is happening here in Maryland today and figuring out how they can become a part of this movement.
The impacts are so far-reaching. I mean, in the lives of those who will directly benefit from the pardon and their families, just the incredible removal of barriers to economic opportunity, education,
housing and financial assistance for food and jobs, and an infinite amount of different ways that they can fully participate in society as full citizens.
We all stood together to make this pardon as impactful as it could possibly be. The fact that Maryland is the first state to add paraphernalia charges to its categorical pardon is so huge.
I was one of those young people that was arrested for cannabis possession as a young person at the age of 16. Being able to see somebody at the highest levels of government really listen to us and see what it is that we need as people is just, it warms my heart and inspires me to continue to do this work every day and take it across the country and all the way to the White House.
I not only commend and appreciate the governor's courage that he demonstrated today, but I take him at his word that we are just getting started.
Thank you so much for being that courageous leader that we've been waiting for a very long time.
Think about this. If he lived in Maryland, the legendary Tommy Chong would have his record pardon for selling the bongs that sent him to a federal jail for 9 months in 2003. Other states besides Maryland and Massachusetts that have pardoned nonviolent cannabis crimes include Oregon, Nevada, Kansas City, Missouri, and Birmingham, Alabama. Flying below the radar during this current reform movement is the indigenous people of Native Americans. They are very active on their tribal lands where they operate outside federal laws. This past week, there was a major cannabis convention for the people who were here in North America before the Europeans discovered this continent and took over. Here's Tina Tasaka with her Nevada report.
I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies, and this is the Nevada report for Weed Talk News. Just fresh off the Native Nations events, 9th conference for cannabis and hemp. Once again, it delivered incredible networking and brought tribal Native American leaders and cannabis professionals to hear insights about our incredible plant and the future of cannabis. What are the tribes doing going forward? So many tribes were in attendance from New York to California, Canada, and Minnesota. It was held at the world-class Pechanga Casino Resort in Temecula, California, June 18th and 19th. So where is Nevada in this? What is the makeup of the Native American tribes in Nevada, and what are they doing in cannabis? Here's the rundown in the Silver State. There are 20 tribes, and 8 are involved with cannabis. There are 10 tribal dispensaries. With the utmost humble respect and honor, I will do my very best to pronounce the names correctly of the tribes. Nuwu Downtown has a massive facility with dispensary, sky-high consumption lounge, meeting facilities, outdoor courtyard, drive-through, and more. Their sister store, Nuwu North, is 20 miles northwest and also features a 24-hour drive-through. Niwi Cannabis Store in Elko, Nevada. This opened in April 2020 by the Elko Band Colony of the Timucua tribe of Western Shoshone Indians. Niwi promotes itself as the best dispensary for miles in rural northern Nevada. Its mission, according to the company website, is to provide much-needed economic development for the tribe. Nabuduka Dispensary in Lovelock, owned by and operated by the Lovelock Paiute tribe, is a 90-minute drive from Reno, and it's all on Interstate 80 eastbound. Another dispensary in Ely, Nevada, Nasanga Dispensary, means feels good. This is the Shoshone tribe. Pesha Numa Dispensary, this is the Yerington Paiute tribe. They credit its economic future to its cannabis dispensary, said Vice Chairman Elwood M. Quote, "It offered a lot of relief during the pandemic, both financial and physical," M said. "We've seen huge demand for the plant from both locals and visitors." Unquote. Dire financial problems caused the medium-sized tribe of just over 300 members to shutter its tribal medical clinic in the years before Pesha Numa launched. Revenue from the dispensary has single-handedly allowed this rural tribe to become fully operational again. Water Canyon Dispensary in Winnemucca, owned by the Winnemucca Indian Tribe Colony, the Northern Nevada Dispensary, opened in the summer of 2020 and thrived during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Tumatsaquay Newbie Dispensary, which is in Schertz, this is the Walker River Paiute tribe, opened, and they are in the Central Nevada Cannabis Store in early 2022. The name translates to Healing House. The last two are Three Nations Cannabis. They're 100% tribally owned, and they have 2 stores in South Reno and Verde. Well, that's it for this special tribal edition for the 702. I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies and Weed Talk News.
Another state where the only available cannabis is on indigenous land is North Carolina, where the Eastern Bank of Cherokee Nations runs and operates the Great Smoky Dispensary. Now there's another attempt, though, of bringing a medical program to the entire state. This past week, the state Senate passed a medical bill, 33-9, that would decriminalize the plant for medicinal purposes, thus becoming the 39th state to do so. The Senate handed the House there a similar bill in July of 2023, only to see it vetoed. Well, now Republican Senator Danny Britt is hoping to, quote, get out in front of the expected federal declassification to Schedule 3. There are still a few steps before this becomes law, of course. So there's that. Medical program, though, continues to grow in Virginia, where Joe Parsons is right in the middle of the advocacy movement. Here's Joe's Virginia Cannabis Report for this week.
I'm Joe Parsons with the Virginia Cannabis Connection, and this is the Virginia Cannabis Report on Weed Talk News. For 12 years, the Virginia Hemp Coalition, formerly known as the Virginia Industrial Hemp Coalition, has been fighting for cannabis rights, not only for Virginia, but for the entire cannabis community. The VHC was instrumental in the bill that legalized hemp in the Commonwealth in 2015. On a national level, they collaborated on the 2014 Farm Bill, the 2015 and 2017 Industrial Farm Acts, and played a huge role in the final Farm Bill in 2018 that legalized hemp with less than 0.3% of THC on a national level. With the pending Farm Bill in peril due to the Miller amendments, I thought I would reach out to the president and founder of the Virginia Hemp Coalition, Jason Amatucci, for his thoughts on this surprise attack to the hemp industry.
It's really tough right now for them to compromise on anything. And so we know right now that there's a very bad amendment, that basically tries to take away all intoxicating cannabinoids from the marketplace and national. Yes. And there's a comment period that's open right now. I don't know if you're going to share that with in the comments of your video.
Most definitely.
To do. Yeah. That'd be great for them to go ahead and comment and talk about how we should not be, making things illegal. We're making parts of the plant. We're going backwards with cannabis policy here. And that's not going to help anything. We're still going to have cannabis marketplace, whether it's legitimate or not. And so this is what these politicians have to wrap their heads around, that we can either have legitimate business that's above board and show in the light of day, that's regulated, or that should be regulated fairly, not with monopolies, right? Or we have another system, which is black market, and it still exists either way. So we're just trying to talk some sense into these folks and realize that you can prohibit whatever you want, but it doesn't actually prohibit the products from getting to consumers that want them. And again, just it's very simple. It's not rocket science. Regulate it like alcohol, tobacco. And let it be a free market. We don't have interstate commerce control over. You can't take beer out of the state. It's ridiculous. But alcohol does have its consequences sometimes, just like any substance does, right? So the double standards, we're over the double standards, and that's kind of our main focus here. And that's why I think all of cannabis type advocates should be focusing on pushing for the double standard here, because they really can't say anything back when you hit them with that logic of why are we not treating this like alcohol at the very least, when it's less dangerous and it's something that consumers want and should have a right to consume for their health and wellness.
I would like to thank the Virginia Hemp Coalition and Jason Amatucci for their time and input to Pro Cannabis Media. More from this amazing interview will be available soon on my blog channel, the Virginia Cannabis Connection. So be sure to check it out. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Virginia Cannabis Report. From the Virginia Cannabis Connection and reporting from Weed Talk News, I'm Joe Parsons. Till next time, stay lifted.
Now we turn to Texas, where the governor there, Greg Abbott, and his attorney general, Ken Paxton, have been trying to stop some of the largest cities in that state from enacting their own reform initiatives on cannabis. That effort was shut down this week in the Lone Star State, and Lisa Williams has our Texas report on that.
I'm Lisa Williams, founder of the Toke Agency with the Texas Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Well, y'all, we got some spicy news cooking up in the Lone Star State. This week, a judge dismissed a lawsuit that was challenging voter-backed local cannabis reforms in Texas. The lawsuit, spearheaded by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, aimed to overturn local ordinances passed by voters in cities like Austin, San Marcos, and Denton, and a few others. These cities had decided to decriminalize low-level marijuana possessions, and Paxton wasn't too happy about it, claiming it conflicted with state law. But the court decided to uphold the will of the voters, saying, "Not today, Ken." The decision is a significant win for local democracy and cannabis reform advocates in Texas. It means that in these cities, people caught with small amounts of marijuana won't face criminal charges. Instead, they'll likely get a citation, much like a speeding ticket. This move not only alleviates the burden on the judicial system, but also spares individuals from long-lasting repercussions of a criminal record for minor possession charges. Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. This ruling doesn't mean that marijuana is fully legal in these cities. It just means that the enforcement priorities have shifted, and local police departments are being encouraged to focus on more serious crimes rather than a small-time pot possession. It's a step towards more sensible cannabis policies, but we're still a long way from legalization. Adding a little bit of Texas flair to this, you could say that while the rest of the state is still as dry as a tumbleweed when it comes to cannabis reform, these cities are starting to show some green shoots. It's like finding an oasis in the middle of the desert, refreshing, but there's still a long journey ahead. This ruling could inspire other Texas cities to push for similar reforms. It shows that local governments can have a say in how cannabis laws are enforced, despite the state's more conservative stance on marijuana. It's a glimmer of hope for advocates who have been tirelessly pushing for change. To wrap things up, Texas might not be turning into a cannabis-friendly state overnight, but this ruling is a big win for local authorities and progressive cannabis policies. So keep your boots on the ground and your eyes on the horizon, because change is coming one step at a time. I'm Lisa Williams, the founder of the Toke Agency with the Texas Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News.
That'll do it for this week's A Block, or first section of our Weed Talk News show. If you want to see the entire show right now, it's available on the procannabismedia.com website. And the B Block will be coming up next and released on Tuesday on our YouTube channel. So don't go away, or better yet, like, share, and subscribe. Weed Talk News continues after this.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
It's a whole new world of weed out there, isn't it? Everyone is learning new ways to titrate, ingest, consume, imbibe, and engage with this plant medicine we call cannabis. Now, let me tell you my cannabis story. You know, I've had 4 major surgeries in the past 23 years and suffer from osteoarthritis with a variety of metal parts in my body and one on deck. Now, thanks to those chronic pain issues, I've been a medical patient in Massachusetts for almost 10 years now. I remember my first trip to a dispensary just outside of Boston, and I told the bud tender I didn't want to smoke it anymore. So I tried edibles, then tinctures, then vaping, and now if I'm going to smoke, I only use the Weejit's filtration system. What? The Weedgets.com, Weedgets, that's weed, W-E-E-D, G-E-T-S.com, is where you'll find the planet's coolest product that cools the smoke from everyone's favorite flower. The guy that started this was a pretty good medical device manufacturer, and he created this maze pipe that cools the smoking process from 1,300 degrees Fahrenheit upon inflammation down to just 90 degrees when it reaches your mouth. That's right, 1,300 down to 90. That's why this maze pipe is amazing. Now, add in the code of PCMTV and you get 15% off. So just go to Weedgets.com and check out the best way to enjoy a cooler smoke with less coughing and hacking and more peace of mind.
Welcome back to Weed Talk News. This is the B block, or second part of our show. I'm Alaina Pinto. While the DEA's public comment period on the anticipated rescheduling of cannabis to Schedule 3, we continue to urge our viewers to go to the regulations.gov webpage to contribute your story and reasoning why cannabis should be moved off the most restrictive level. We continue to share the link and the QR code that takes you directly to that page so you can share your own cannabis story. This past week, in the Arizona Republic newspaper, a reader who suffers from chronic pain explained his frustration with the current laws about gun ownership if you are an official medical card holder in the state. Right now, the federal illegality of the plant restricts gun owners from buying or registering their rightful ownership under the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms. With cannabis expected to move to Schedule 3 and still be a controlled illegal substance, the writer made an interesting argument that he's using cannabis instead of opioids for his chronic pain in a legal state. This is just another example of the uncertainties about the impact of this expected move by the feds. With more from Arizona, here's Karen Black.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Workers at 2 Zen Leaf dispensaries in Phoenix and Chandler have ratified their union contracts after a 2-year process, making them the first cannabis workers in the state to do so. The agreement includes various benefits, such as scheduled wage increases and paid time off. Zen Leaf's parent company is MSO Verano Holdings. While some view unionization as a positive milestone, others in the industry have expressed concerns. 7 other cannabis workplaces in Arizona have also voted to unionize, indicating a growing trend in the sector and not just here. The long-term effects of unionization on Arizona's cannabis industry and the industry as a whole remain to be seen. It's a mixed bag for magic mushrooms. On a positive note, global advisory and research firm Alira Health has partnered with the Scottsdale Research Institute to kick off some groundbreaking psilocybin research with $5 million in state funding. If the FDA gives the green light, Arizona could be the first state to run official clinical trials using whole mushrooms. And that research may be exactly what Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs needs, because she just vetoed a bipartisan bill to legalize psilocybin service centers. Ms. Hobbs says she doesn't have the evidence needed to support widespread clinical expansion, nor the $400,000 price tag in the budget. However, the governor did protect the $5 million research funds from lapsing. As for some fun news, Arizona's The Farm declared June 21st Go Skate Day, paying homage to the long history between cannabis and skateboarding. They gave away farm decks, which are their brand of miniature skateboards, a nod to the iconic Tech Deck fingerboards, with purchases of their products at several retail outlets. And EcoGrow in Tucson held a Buds and Bloom celebration June 22nd with a DJ, food vendors, local artists and merchants, and of course, cannabis. That's all for the Arizona Cannabis Report. I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting reporting for Weed Talk News.
The battle for the adult use question on the ballot in Florida took an unexpected turn this past week. That's when the state used the mail list of the registered 800,000 medical patients to scare them that their access to the medicinal product might be more difficult if adults pass the legalization bill in the fall. Governor Ron DeSantis is fighting the passing of the initiative by the Smart and Safe Florida group, who has now rallied to over 63% support according to the latest polls. DeSantis is supporting the unregulated existing market for hot hemp products in an attempt to pick up support of that market for the illicit products that are available in convenience stores, drugstores, smoke shops, and gas stations. So we have a state political leader supporting products that are being banned in many states as these products continue to be used by young people under the age of 21 instead of a legal, regulated, and tested product. Does this make sense at all? In the meantime, we turn to the 24th legal state in America, Ohio, where adult use provisional licenses are being awarded to existing medical dispensaries. Opening day for legal sales could happen any day now. With an update from Ohio, here's Harry Bernstein, now sponsored by Yellow Labs, a product available in 40 medical dispensaries right now in Ohio.
In Loveland, Ohio, Emily and Mark seek to deepen their bond through intimacy. They turn to Yellow Labs Rose Oil Massage Cream with delivery technology, promising enhanced pleasure and connection. The cream ignites increased sensitivity and arousal as they apply it, kindling a shared passion. Excited by its effects, they find joy in shared closeness and moments of unity.
This is Harry Bernstein with Verde Compliance Partners and the Ohio Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Ohio regulators are turning up the heat, paving the way for adult use marijuana sales. In just 2 weeks since the application window opened, the Division of Cannabis Control has issued 62 provisional dual-use licenses to dispensaries, cultivators, processors, and testing labs. This rapid move is setting the stage for Ohio's adult-use cannabis market to light up soon. These provisional licenses are just the beginning. Licensees will still need to meet the regulatory requirements before they can start selling to adult consumers. Think of it as prepping for the big 4th of July bash. You've got to get everything ready before the party starts. This includes updating their point-of-sale technology, boosting security, and ensuring there's enough supply for medical patients. The Department of Commerce made it clear that a dual-use provisional license is only a placeholder to allow businesses to get everything in order for their certificate of operation. Once they meet these requirements, the certificates will be issued, and then it's up to the retailers to decide when they start sales. A spokesperson from one of the major cannabis operators couldn't be more excited. He stated, "Ohio's working at lightning fast speed. We've never seen this anywhere. We're ready to flip the switch and welcome folks into our stores." As of Friday, Ohio regulators had received 235 applications from medical cannabis businesses who want to go dual use. While the exact timeline is still a bit hazy, businesses could start selling to both medical and adult use consumers as early as this month. So as the summer sun blazes and the 4th of July approaches, Ohio's cannabis business is heating up too. Get ready for some fireworks in the cannabis market. Stay tuned for more updates, and until the next time, keep cool and enjoy the ride. That's the Ohio Cannabis Report for this week. I'm Harry Bernstein with Verde Compliance Partners, reporting for Weed Talk News.
The Ohio Cannabis Report is supported by Yellow Labs and Better Ways to THC.com. Search for Yellow Labs near me and find one of 40 dispensaries in Ohio carrying these amazing mists and creams.
Ohio will be adding the cannabis group to its growing group of legal dispensaries. The cannabis group had been in Florida for years, but is leaving now because they could be worried about the future of the medical market in that state. They will be looking to expand both adult use and medical operations into Ohio and Delaware. Another state that has been making plenty of noise about passing adult use legalization is the Keystone State of Pennsylvania. As usual, Claudia Post of Scarlet Express Delivery is right in the middle of that movement.
Greetings, this is Claudia Post reporting for Weed Talk News, direct from the Keystone State of Pennsylvania. Earlier this year, President Joe Biden decided to reclassify marijuana after legislative Republicans had long blocked the action on Schedule 1. The cannabis industry itself sees big profits in Pennsylvania and is pushing hard for legislation. Governor Josh Shapiro made legalizing marijuana the centerpiece of his budget pitch this year. In his February budget pitch, Shapiro asked for lawmakers to pass a 20% tax on recreational marijuana sales, an estimated $250 million annual in tax revenue. $250 million, that's a big number for Pennsylvania. Well, for anywhere, really. You also have State Rep Dan Frankel, who wants the sale of marijuana to be put in liquor and wine stores and adopt the measures from Canada. Why? Makes no sense. We are the laughing stock, but I have it on good word that that's never going to happen. What a tremendous business opportunity that Pennsylvania should be capitalizing on what we're losing from our neighboring states. Everybody is legal around us with rec. While we love this, only a handful of days before the summer recess remain, passing a legalization bill by June 30th is not realistic. There are still proposals being considered before the legislature. There are 3 proposals, 2 with bipartisan backing and 1 more on the horizon. Shapiro asked for the bill to include expungement for people convicted of non-violent possession of small amounts of marijuana and echoed legislative calls for the industry to include previously criminalized groups. Governor Shapiro also wants the Department of Agriculture to regulate the industry, with the rest of the details up to the legislature. One of the senators, Dan Laughlin, and another one, Sharif Street, would create a new board to regulate the industry and allow medical marijuana companies to sell to recreational customers. It's an MSO play again. The bill addresses calls for social justice with reduced permit fees, social and economic applicants. This will allow established sellers, such as publicly traded MSOs, to receive additional permits if they partner with a social equity applicant. Interesting. Applicants will need to make less than $75,000 a year and have been arrested for nonviolent offenses or lived for the last 5 of the 10 years in a location higher than average in poverty or incarceration rate. The next bill is a bipartisan House bill, which proposed this week, co-sponsored by Emily Kincaid, mirrors much of Laughlin and Street's proposal. However, it would allow existing companies to receive additional permits only once social equity clients have opened their doors. The measure creates a legal framework for the non-medical sale of marijuana and priority given to disadvantaged groups, an emphasis on social equity, criminal justice reform, and opportunities for individuals disappropriately impacted. So I don't understand. The bill is 220 pages long. Why is the bill 220 pages long? I don't understand. I guess that's what people have to do, is just write long bills. If the Department of Agriculture, in regulating both the existing medical marijuana program and the new recreational sales to give priority licensing to small businesses and businesses owned by veterans, as well as women and minorities, as proposed by Shapiro, rather than creating a new board. When the bill is introduced formally this month, it will join other legislators that seek to legalize recreational marijuana. Are we on the path to get this done? Only time will tell. And don't forget to vote. Thank you. That's Claudia Post reporting for We Talk News. And I'll be back next week, hopefully with some good news about recreational marijuana from Pennsylvania. Have a good week.
Claudia is one of the most influential voices for cannabis reform in that state. But another influential voice for the cause is in Washington state, That's where Matthew Friedlander operates his business and works with the Cannabis Alliance. Here's his Washington State report this week.
Hi, I'm Matthew Friedlander, coming to you from the owner's office here at Skagit Organics with the Washington State Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Today I'm going to talk about some open rulemaking projects that are happening at the LCB, as well as an upcoming event and the ongoing efforts of the Cannabis Alliance. There are several rulemaking projects happening currently at the LCB, and a few of the important ones involve minors on licensed premises. This was a rule that came out of COVID times that allows licensee holders to have their children on the licensed premises. Obviously very helpful when many kids were out of school. There's a push to make this rule permanent. Rules around cannabis waste that would allow us to sell or compost this waste. Currently, it is mandated that our plant waste goes into the garbage. There are rules being discussed around flexible payment terms for retailers. Anybody following what's happening in California may understand why this rule would not be favored by the producer processors. Currently in Washington, we operate on a COD, cash on delivery basis. And I think a lot of the smaller producer processors would prefer to keep it that way. There are rules surrounding our social equity program. This is legislation that was passed several years ago. The LCB is having a hard time getting the rules correct on this one. There are also rules surrounding medical endorsements for retail stores. You have to have a registered or a licensed medical cannabis consultant on staff, among other things. In order to have your medical endorsement, you need this medical endorsement to provide the excise tax exemption that just went into effect on June 6th. There are rules surrounding that legislation as well. We expect final rules sometime in September or October. There are also some rules around cannabis samples. Currently, our system is pretty restrictive. It would take me several months to sample all of my products to a new retail store, and there's a push to try to make that process a little bit easier. Now, moving on to events, the Cannabis Alliance is hosting their second annual Summer Classic in Leavenworth, Washington. It's going to be a great day of just good fun. The Cannabis Alliance does a lot of work here in Washington, lobbying our legislature and dealing with regulatory issues at the LCB. So it's going to be good to get out of the office a little bit and have some fun. The Cannabis Alliance really also shows how important it is to stay connected as a community and to stay involved in what's happening in your community. To that end, they host a virtual happy hour online, and I would encourage you to visit their website at thecannabisalliance.us and click on the events tab and look for that happy hour and join us. It's a great way to just say hello and talk with other people in the cannabis community from around the world. So that's what I've got for you today. My name is Matthew with the Washington State Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
That'll do it for the B block or second section of Weed Talk News. But don't go anywhere because we haven't even shared what is going on in our New York State or in Massachusetts, plus more state reports from the Midwest. Weed Talk News continues after this second break.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Welcome back to the C block of Weed Talk News. I'm Alaina Pinto. The state of Massachusetts, like the state of New York, are now dealing with state legislatures overlooking their regulatory actions. New York has seen multiple lawsuits about their awarding of licenses, and their leadership has been replaced by interim bureaucrats appointed by Governor Kathy Hochul. Their glut of illicit storefronts in the city is slowly being eliminated, and another 110 operations have been shut down. That still leaves over 1,000 open, but as the governor proclaimed this week, legal sales were up by 27% during the time of the new enforcement rules. Well, now we turn to Massachusetts, where the state legislator is being called in to take over, or at least be more directly involved. And PCM founder Jimmy Young has more in his Bay State Report.
I'm PCM founder Jimmy Young, and this is the Bay State Report. You think it's easy to be a state regulator for the new cannabis industry? It's not. Political appointees tasked with either writing new regulations or creating new processes is not a glamour job. In fact, when you add in the human factor, you have the personality and philosophical conflicts that have been the one constant here in Massachusetts, with the state treasurer, Deborah Goldberg, and Commissioner Shannon O'Brien squaring off in one quarter. Resignations and threats of receivership by the State House has the CCC just trying to hold it together on a day-to-day basis. Their executive director, Sean Collins, resigned over the past 6 months, and a supposed national search for his replacement is underway. In the meantime, the count is now 6 years without one social cannabis club that was supposed to be a signature clause in the new world of adult use cannabis being open. One element of that is that the CCC has been able to positively influence is the ridiculous restrictions in host community agreements that are paramount before anyone can even apply for a license. However, if a city or a town sets up its rules to keep dispensaries away from commercial zones, schools, or other competing dispensaries, it is an obstacle that many potential entrepreneurs find extremely frustrating, if not impossible, to open. Once again, those restrictions of trade are ending up in court, with potential operators suing their city or towns on restraint of trade. It's happening again in Malden. 2 dispensaries of the over 300 in the state are open there, but commercial zoning and unfair restrictions limit anyone else from opening a shop. For 2 years, Benevolent Botanicals has been in a civil suit against Malden, and now they're being joined by another company, Driss. Both claim unfair business practices by their town, who are hiding behind the legalese of their charters while restricting small businesses from opening in their jurisdiction. On top of that now, the CCC is being threatened to be placed into receivership by the state. Yes, that's the same group of officials who created this mess in the first place. I guess, however, it could be worse. Could be New York, where there are still hundreds of illegal, unlicensed dispensaries that are open in the city. And now, on those streets, an ugly assault by the publishers of a popular cannabis magazine called Honeysuckle, and it is making headlines and viral videos. This industry has to be on its best behavior at all times because we are all under a microscope. That's this week's Bay State Report. This week, I am PCM founder Jimmy Young, and now Jill Goldsberry has more on what is going on in this ugly assault in her cannabis report.
Hi, welcome to the New Jersey Report. I'm Jill Goldsberry, and this week in news, we have some disturbing news that came out recently about the cannabis publication Honeysuckle Magazine that was supposedly an ally to the BIPOC community, an ally to women, and social justice stories. Honeysuckle Magazine founders Ronit Pinto and Sam Long were seen recently in an altercation I believe it was in New York City, a social media video plummeting, choking, and kicking a female Palestinian protester on the ground. It was reported on Wake Up Singapore, an alternative news source. The video has been seen on Reddit. It was actually posted on Reddit recently, and it's a video from Instagram. Onlookers were frightened to even jump in and help the innocent woman that was being attacked by Ronit Pinto and Sam Long. The aftermath of this has led to some serious backlash for the publication. We understand that Cannabisiac, a minority woman-owned corporation, has removed Ronit Pinto from their advisory board and their most recent events. You can look at the disturbing video here.
I have it all on recording. Why are you?
And we understand that Cannabisiac has released a statement about this situation, and I will read a little bit of it to you. It says, due to recent events, Cannabisiac has removed Ronit Pinto, founder of Honeysuckle Magazine, from their lineup of speakers for the Get in the Biz Roadshow event being held in Brooklyn, and they have removed her as an advisory board member, effective immediately. And we will keep you posted on this story as we investigate a little further to find out exactly what happened and why it happened. In other news, we took our reporting on the road on a higher note to the official Higher Women's Conference, Women of Color Conference, in Philadelphia this past weekend, just off the heels of Juneteenth in Philadelphia. The event was held at the Billy Penn Studios in downtown Philly. It was filled with networking, women sharing, growing, love. It was all love in the conference. It featured competition panels, workshops, and even a wellness pavilion. Yours truly was even invited to the media panel with some other notables in the business from Essence Magazine. Canna Curious as well was there representing, and we were able to connect with some New Jersey brands that made the trip out there, namely Butter Cake and Precious Canico. We saw Black Buddha, Roz McCarthy as well, and it was a really, really incredible event. I advise anyone that is interested in attending next year, if you're a woman, a minority woman in the business, it's definitely a great place to be. So we're looking forward to next year's event, and we'll see you there. I'm Jill Goldsberry with the New Jersey Report, and thanks for watching.
Lavana Bassaw is off this week, but we have some California news to share. If you happen to be making plans to attend the California State Fair this summer, you will be allowed to consume cannabis. Legal dispensaries will be allowed to display and sell at the fair. The fair takes place in 17 days, starting July 12th in Sacramento. This is the 170th California State Fair, but the first that will have joint rolling competitions and other pro-cannabis events. You have to figure that Canada, though, is already allowing this industry to have a presence at their country's summer fairs, but we know Debbie Facey will be there too. So she's our Canadian correspondent, and here's her report and an update on the cannabis stock trade with Doug Miller.
This is Debbie Facey with your Canadian Strain of the Week. So our top 3 stories this week, what we have is Aurora Cannabis making their normal 2 steps forward with 1 step back. So they are making their gains, trying to stay afloat, but at the same time, with their gains, they are adding to their debts. And that is something that we tend to always have to kind of, sad to say, realize when it comes to Aurora Cannabis. They are trying, but unfortunately, there will always be setbacks with them. Next, what we have is the government wanting to allow LPs now to use see-through packaging, which is not only going to make it a little more cost effective due to the fact that it's not going to have to be made out of a plastic or some sort of material hiding the goods, but it's also going to make it easier for a lot of the consumers to see exactly what's inside of the container. This is also something that they are also looking at as a deterrent, because the fact that now people will be able to see it, they don't want to haul too much into the advertising. So this is something that we hope to see and learn more about, and I'll definitely let you guys in more. And last but not least, we have been seeing an increase when it comes to women in utilizing cannabis that are pregnant. This is something that we have not necessarily been able to survey to the point where we have a huge amount of numbers or a huge amount of reasons, but this is something that Health Canada has noticed a rise in, and are hopefully going to be able to find out a little bit more information as to why and how we could kind of not stop, but aid most of these women when it does come to consuming cannabis and the harms that it could actually produce when it comes to their child. This is Debbie Facey with your Canadian Strain of the Week. Peace.
I'm Doug Miller from High on Wall Street with this week's cannabis stock report for Weed Talk News. The cannabis sector is setting up to do something big. And how do I know that? Well, when I want to get an idea of what's going on in any sector or industry, the best way to know is to look at the ETFs, which are the exchange traded funds. So let's take a look at MSOS, Advisor Shares, Pure US Cannabis ETF. It is trading around $6.99, and it took a nice dip into the bottom the last few days. I'm watching to see if it wants to dip into the basement or take a bounce off that bottom. It's setting up the run, just like the rest of the ETFs in the cannabis sector. They all have the exact same chart pattern as MSOS, and they're setting up for some kind of news in the next few weeks. And that's this week's Cannabis Stock Report. Reporting for Weed Talk News, I'm Doug Miller.
There's another research survey out of Colorado on youth cannabis use that shows more decline since legalization in that state began over a decade ago. The biannual Healthy Kids Colorado survey reports that high school use of cannabis over the past 30 days was down to 12.8% in 2023, which is down from 13.3% reported in 2021. Well, since 2013, when legalization began, use by teens in high school is down 7 percentage points. So that argument by many prohibitionists who ask, what about the kids? Well, now you can point to Colorado and say, as legalization becomes more of the norm, use of cannabis by teens could go down. At least it did in Colorado. Now that Michigan, though, has passed California as the state that sells the most cannabis products, you have to wonder, what is the magic of that state's adult use program? Well, that's why we have the Michigan Weedster's own Amie Carter, who reports this time from the shores of Elizabeth Lake in Waterford, Michigan. Here she is.
I'm Amie Carter with Michigan Weedsters, reporting from the Great Lakes State for this week's Weed Talk News. Baker College, a private college in Oakland County, has partnered with the House of Dank to offer cannabis-related internships in Metro Detroit. This collaboration aims to establish a pipeline of talent for the cannabis industry while providing students with comprehensive education and training. The college is introducing 3 specialized cannabis certificates to equip students with the job skills needed for a career in the marijuana industry. Each online course takes 9 weeks to complete. Native Michigan Remedies, an established Niles-based cannabis company, celebrated the grand opening of its new dispensary. The opening came after over 5 years of growing and cultivating marijuana. As a Class A microbusiness licensee in Michigan, Native Michigan Remedies is now authorized to grow up to 300 cannabis plants, purchase mature plants from other licensed growers, and utilize an outside processor. Congratulations to Native Michigan Remedies on this exciting new chapter. I'm Amie Carter with Michigan Weedsters for this week's Weed Talk News.
We have a brand new correspondent this week from the Midwest. Well, actually, he's from California, but his DJing skills take him all over the world. He's the Shake Man, Kevin Shakir, and he will be reporting from his new state of Arkansas. Here's Kevin.
I'm Kevin Shakir, aka the Shake Man, cannabis ambassador, advocate, and now correspondent right here at Weed Talk News, and this is the Arkansas Cannabis Report. Can you say expansion? We've got an abundance of cannabis patients that can't get enough cannabis. We've been voting for the right for adult consumption. Last year, the vote got turned down. This year, we've got even more signatures. We think that it can pass. We will find out the results as this is going to be put on the ballots for this year, 2024. In other news, we've seen the first revoking of dispensary license by Green Springs Medical in Hot Springs, Arkansas. They were selling expired products, 1,800 pieces of expired product. They tried to ask the judge for temporary license. The judge has told them, no bueno. We can't do that at this time. So we're going to be following this story because we know that it's made the national news and we want to see what happens. This has been Kevin Shakir, aka the Shake Man. If you need some DJing in your town, I'm your man for 420 events and also consumption lounges. I love to travel and spread the 420 sounds all around the nation. For Weed Talk News, Kevin Shakir. Now back to Alaina.
And finally, two stories to end this week's news show. First, in Europe, the soccer championship that is being held in Germany shared a request from the police in that newly legalized country. Please don't drink too much alcohol. And they would prefer that you fire up some weed instead of beer. Specifically, they asked a rowdy bunch of English supporters nicknamed the Hooligans if they could just chill out on cannabis rather than the violent state that alcohol provides. And another sign that the times are changing when it comes to the acceptance of weed in society. There is an independent minor league baseball team, on the other hand, in Oregon that is making a little story, a history. The Portland Pickles. I love that name. Their logo is great too. The Portland Pickles play in the West Coast League, and they are the first professional league to offer THC-infused beverages available for sale at the stadium. They have partnered with Ballard, Washington-based Cycling Frog to offer these types of beverages at games. I love that. And that'll do it for this week's Weed Talk News. Like most people this time of year, we'll be going on vacation for a few weeks, okay? But we will be back during the week of July 15th. And if anything breaks between now and then, you know PCM founder Jimmy Young will have that for you because he never goes on vacation. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly. Have a happy and safe 4th of July. I'm Alaina Pinto. We will see you soon.